Introducing the Bite Me Cannabis Club. The Bite Me Cannabis Club aims to be an inclusive online space for cannabis lovers. Whether you're simply curious about how cannabis can improve your life or you're fully seasoned, there's always more to learn. When you join the Bite Me Cannabis Club, you'll have access to like-minded people interested in cannabis, monthly workshops, live Q&As, recipes and recipe swaps, digital cookbooks, fully functional chat feature, and a whole lot more. For a limited time, it's only $5 a month with a 30-day free trial so you can try it out and see if it's right for you. This isn't just another Facebook group or confusing Discord channel. I carefully chose a platform that offers a clear, uncluttered, and seamless community experience. See for yourself, join today, say hello. I can't wait to connect with you there. Join the Bite Me Cannabis Club today. Link in your podcast app. In this episode of Bite Me, I sit down with Travis Petersen, the Nomad Cook, to talk about culinary cannabis. Welcome to Bite Me, the show about edibles where I help you take control of your high life. I am your host, Marge. I'm super excited for this episode today. I think you're going to love it. Thank you for being here and lending me your ears. Now, Travis Petersen, known as the Nomad Cook, has been creating infused dining experiences for quite some time now. After a hiatus because of the pandemic, he is ready to get back on the road again. So we touch on his summer tour plans, we touch on culinary cannabis as an ingredient, the Sedanio method, terpene pairing, some of the other projects and plans he has coming out in the fall, including a move to the USA, and a few other things I think you're going to find really interesting. Travis knows culinary cannabis as an ingredient like no other. So you're going to learn something from him today. I'm certain of it. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Travis Petersen. All right. Welcome to Bite Me, the show about edibles. Travis, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. You are known as the Nomad Chef to those who aren't familiar with you. And I was just hoping you could take a second to start out just to introduce yourself to the audience.
Absolutely. My name is Travis Petersen. I'm the founder of the Nomad Cook, and I'm a cannabis chef. I have, over the last 3 years, been traveling all over Canada, really introducing Canadians to the newest frontier in the culinary world, which is infused dining.
Excellent. I know you have a tour coming up. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But in the meanwhile, you have mentioned before that you feel the cannabis industry is really evolving or has been evolving pretty quickly lately. And I should say the cannabis culinary industry specifically. And I was just wondering if you could talk about that from the perspective of a chef working in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's this new frontier because all of a sudden now chefs can legally work with this ingredient. So whereas before when we thought about edibles, they were brownies, gummies, cookies, now we're starting to see, chefs put out really refined dishes built around, terpene profiles, dishes that have more of a purpose than just getting high,
Mm-hmm.
So, we've Canada's been given this head start as the first country to fully legalize the recreational use. I feel Canadians have been a big reason for that pendulum being swung in this direction. It's just unfortunate with the restrictions and regulations that really have been holding back the potential growth we could be having with culinary cannabis.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that. Do you see that changing at all in the future? Because I know you've been to the States quite a bit as well, and you've seen how things work in the legal states down there too, as a comparison.
Yeah, it's a little mind-blowing, actually. I always thought, this was really an opportunity for Canadians to be the worldwide experts in it. But unfortunately, we are being held back with these regulations. I just recently returned from the States, was in Arizona. They have dispensaries with fully operational kitchens where I could go in and order a slice of pizza with 100 milligrams in it. I could order tacos and burgers, and if I have a medical card, up to 500 milligrams. So a state that's traditionally conservative, a red state, 2 months into legalization is being more progressive than the country of Canada, which is now about to go into year 4 of legalization. So, I've been trying to lead by example and demonstrate that, culinary cannabis can be done safely. What's needed is really the chef needs to be confident with what they're doing. How do they gain confidence? It's with experience. And how do we get to experience? It's with education. And so that's really where my focus is right now is with education. Again, 3 years into this, we haven't seen a Canadian culinary institution step up and offer anything with culinary cannabis. So this summer, I've actually partnered with Russell Hendricks, who's the largest national supplier of equipment and appliances for restaurants. They've got 16 locations across the country. We're going to be hosting an introduction to culinary cannabis workshop, and we are going to be certifying chefs with a certification saying they understand safety, responsibility, and the sort of methods that go involved to creating extractions. To see a company like Russell Hendricks step up and come out of the private sector and say, hey, this is important, we want to help you. It's a real sign that, things are changing.
Yeah, that's a pretty exciting partnership as well. The fact that you can get your certification, but it's important because it's also a huge responsibility, right? Like if you're a chef working in the industry, that's a lot of power to hold over somebody when you're infusing their food. So being able to do it properly and appropriately is really important. So this is, like you said, absolutely necessary. It's probably high time they did this. No pun intended. Yeah. Now is no, go ahead.
Chefs, we're so focused on that bite of food you're taking, whether it's got cannabis in it or not. We want to make sure your experience has been a good one. We want to make sure you want to come back and eat with us again. That same philosophy is applied when we're cooking with cannabis. I want my guests to come return. I've served now over 4,600 people in Canada. 16% of my guests are first-time cannabis users. So I really created a space where that canna curious, someone who's nervous but wants to try this comes in. I'll tell you something. If they have a bad experience, they have a bad first time, they're not going to come back. Not just not come back to me, but they're not going to continue, with edibles again. However, if we can make sure they have a great experience, if they enjoy their time, if they hit that perfect note, they're going to go tell everyone within their circle. There's this really cool factor right now because, cannabis is this new sort of thing within pop culture. So, I think 100%, chefs are professionals, and if there's a will, there's a way. Give them the tools to be successful, and they will find a way to make it safe.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's pretty cool too about the first-time users that you found in your dinners, because 16% is quite a bit. And there are a lot of new users coming into my dispensary too, where I work, because they are curious. But like you said, that first bad experience will turn people off of it for years. So it is important. It's a big responsibility, which brings me to the question of, so somebody who's creating edibles at home, obviously it's a little bit of a different context, but if they're wanting to share some of that with somebody who is new to cannabis, how would you recommend they go about it so that they do it without overdosing their friends and family?
So, there are, do a little research and you can find out how to sort of understand the math that goes into creating extractions. This program we're actually launching with Russell Hendricks will, once the summer's over, shift to an online capacity. So people will actually be able to enroll and be able to take this course and start to learn the different methods involved with creating extractions of that. Another great thing that we have here in Canada is there's labs that can test your extractions. It costs $30. I know in Vancouver, there's one called Canna Analytics. It cost me $30 to take my oils in. So even though I know the math that goes into creating my extractions, I still get all of my stuff lab tested before I serve other people. And I think that's really just a philosophy, even as a home cook. If you're going to be serving others, you want to be confident with what's in each bite. And, even the most accurate math equation of following every single safety procedure and step, there's variables that are still going to throw off your final extraction dosage. When we buy our cannabis from the dispensary and it labels 21%, there's actually a 4% variable from the grower on their THC percentage. So it could be 19, it could be 23. It's labeled 21. That's a huge range, and that will really change what
Mm-hmm.
your final extraction is. So again, taking that extra step where we get stuff lab tested, for a mere $30, it's just something you've got to do.
Yeah, $30 is a pretty reasonable amount too. Do you have any other places that you can recommend that would do that in other parts of the country or in the States as well?
No, not that I know of, but you know what? It just we've got the tool called Google, and if anyone really wants to find it, they're out there,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
every single, even whether it's a gray market brand or that, or one of the illegal cultivators, they're having stuff lab tested. We're actually starting to see your little home kits come out where you can actually test stuff. So, again, this is a new industry. So as technology advances and as things become, cheaper and more affordable for home cooks, we're going to have stuff to be able to test on the spot. Being here at the forefront, you've got to take that extra step and bring it into the lab.
Mm-hmm. I do actually have one of those Tcheck devices that I use periodically when I'm making edibles as well. It is a little finicky to use sometimes, but I find that works pretty good as well. I mean, I don't know if it's as accurate as taking it to a lab, but at least it gives me a pretty good benchmark as to where my infusions are at
Absolutely.
least. So,
And that's the responsibility side of it. We have to take these steps
mm-hmm.
ahead of time.
Right. Now, as far as making edibles at home, or even if you're wanting to get into the industry, you're already in the industry, you feel that the double broiler, the crock pot, which is very commonly used in households, is sort of an old school method. Why do you feel that way? And is there a better way to do it?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You used to be able to make like moonshine and alcohol in your basement by pulling together some home pieces of equipment, right? Hey, listen, you can
Mm-hmm.
do it. Is it safe? Is it healthy? No, it's not. So, you know what? Why do we put that same philosophy towards cannabis, right? When we're making extractions, again, we're talking about those potential variables that can throw off your final dosage. You need total control of time, temperature, and the environment you're cooking your extraction in. There's numerous pieces of equipment out there. I say if you're a home cook, the Levo II machine, in my opinion, is probably the best piece of equipment you could be using. And if you
Mm-hmm.
want to be a little bit more, if you're a professional chef or you want to do larger batches, it's the sous vide, the precision cooker. Again, it's you need total control of it. The problem with the double broiler, your temperature, going off your stove. Everyone's stove is going to be a different temperature. There is too much evaporation loss. It's just not a proper way to go about doing it. The crock pot, it's got two temperature settings, low and high. Low could be
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from 170 to 190 degrees, and high could be anywhere from 200 to 230. It's too wide of a range. You need more precision.
So if you have something that's not as precise and it is bringing you those ranges like a crock pot or a stovetop, what is that doing to your final infusion?
It's changing the outcome. It's
Okay.
you're going to be losing more evaporation. It means you're losing more of your fat content, and your actual cannabinoids are starting to evaporate. If your temperatures aren't hitting a right point, you may not be converting enough of the THCA over to THC. So again, it's you really need that total control. Culinary cannabis is just like baking. It's precision. It's a science. It's exact measurements. When we
Mm-hmm.
cook savory dishes and that, we can use our touch, smell, flavor, feeling, put a little love into it. Cannabis, we got to be precise.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense too, because in the end, if you're losing cannabinoids or if it's not extracting enough of the THC or whatever the case might be, you're in essence kind of throwing away a bit of your money too. So if you're going to be getting into making a lot of edibles, it's worth investing in the equipment at some point in your
It doesn't. It's not
your
even
home
doesn't have to be
culinary.
that expensive of an investment. I mean, you can go get
Mm-hmm.
a sous vide. They've got the Anova Nanos at Canadian Tire. They're $95. The Levo machine, maybe it's a little expensive. You're $300, $400 for a machine. But if you're going to be making edibles on the regular, why not make that investment?
Right. And yeah, I have an
Yeah.
Anova Nano as well, and I love it. It's fantastic. So like you said, you can pick one of those up at
You may pick it up
Canadian
for
Tire
cannabis.
and you can use
You may
it.
pick it up for cannabis, and all of a sudden you're going to be like, "Wow, look at what it does with chicken and steak and fish." And,
Yeah, yeah,
wow, this is
exactly.
such a useful kitchen tool.
Yeah. And I find that interesting you mentioned that because a lot of the infusion devices that are on the market are now also
Multi-purpose.
you're able to do all the other things in them. Yeah, like you just said, you can do
Yep.
other things with them as well for infusing. So they're seeing the need to do that, I think, which is better for the consumer anyway in
Absolutely.
the end. So you've mentioned about that precise temperature. That is also pretty important for preserving terpenes. Can you talk a bit more about that too?
Absolutely. One of one of the things I've really learned over the last couple years is I've been connecting with cannabis chefs all over North America, and what we're seeing is these sort of new methods kind of evolve on how we go about making our extractions. Everyone knows the traditional method of decarboxylation, where we add our cannabis to a source of heat to act convert over the THCA to THC. Now, there's nothing incorrect with that process, but it really you
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of decide what is my final outcome? What am I looking to achieve here with my extraction? Is my goal to get as high as I can off the brownie, or am I looking to sort of bring some of these terpene notes through? Terpenes are very fragile when it comes to temperature. We start to see their evaporation once we get above 300 degrees Fahrenheit. But just because that's where their evaporation levels actually start doesn't mean we have free range all the way up to 300 degrees. Usually I look at a terpene profile and I go about half the temperature. So, with limonene at 355 degrees, I want to be right around 170, 175, when making my extraction. So, you know, there are methods. I had an opportunity to work with a chef in New York. His name was Chef Chris Sedanio. He had an underground cannabis supper club called 20 Past Four.
Mm.
Unfortunately, Chef Sedanio did pass away just about a year ago from lung cancer. But I had an opportunity when working with him. He introduced me to a new method, and I've kind of dubbed it the Sedanio method in honor of him. But he didn't decarb his flour. He added it directly into his fats. And I asked him why he did that. He said, well, the butter comes out a nicer color. It's a little more aromatic. And I kind of really stuck in my brain, and I started thinking about it more, and then came home and started doing some more R&D with that technique. What I found was you don't convert you probably convert half the amount of the THCA over to THC, but you're
Mm-hmm.
transitioning a lot more of the terpenes, and you are creating a more well-rounded full spectrum extract. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? When a culinary professional is looking at making a dish, we want the full essence of it. So, we will use more flour to reach the potency if that means we are pulling the terpenes and the flavor notes. So, there are different methods out there that we can apply to different strains of cannabis and different end applications that, aren't the traditional routes for making them. We can also take a lower grade of cannabis. Maybe it wasn't washed properly through its grow cycle. Maybe it was dried too long. Whatever the case, we could actually soak that flour in ice water for 3 days and remove the chlorophyll, that bitter taste. We do remove a lot of the trichomes. It is not considered a full spectrum extract, but by doing that for 3 days before decarbing it, we can actually fully remove the flavor. So that bitter
Mm-hmm.
taste, uh, you know, that cannabis flavor coming through. Now, you may have someone who uses cannabis for a medical reason. They don't like the flavor of cannabis. Well, this is a perfect, method to be using to be, giving them their medicine. You may want to be adding the terpenes in at the end of the dish, be creating a cocktail. But so by taking these steps and removing the flavor, there is some end applications where that fits.
So as for the weed washing, because I have covered that on my show, because I did learn that technique from you, and I know you credit Jeff the 420 chef to teaching that to
Yes.
you. So it's a nice long chain of people who are showing everybody this technique, which is great. But if you have some perhaps weed that you want to use this technique for because you want to remove the taste, would you add back in botanical terpenes in that case, like for an end extraction?
Yeah, well, again, as a chef, what are you looking to do, right? If I want to retell the story of Blue Dream, and I'm plating that dish at the end, well, I want to make sure there's myrcenes coming out. So I'm adding some lemongrass and mangoes. What am I doing to sort of bring that flavor back in? Now, we can also take the actual cannabis-derived terpene, isolate it, and then add it into like a finishing salt, a finishing sugar, spices. So there are unique ways now that we can be adding terpenes at the end where there's not going to be any temperature that's going to be affecting its sort of, compound.
But my understanding for the average home cook, those cannabis-derived terpenes are pretty expensive.
Yes, they are. But
is that, yeah?
That's true. They're probably about 20 times the cost of a botanical terpene. But the botanical terpene, the compound is no different than the cannabis-derived terpene. So you can still achieve an entourage effect by using botanical terpenes. If you were to take a mango and eat it 30 minutes before consuming cannabis, it'll increase the effects of the THC. So you don't need cannabis-derived terpenes to be bringing those terpene notes back in.
Right. Okay. That's good to know, because for most people, I think the botanical terpene is probably the most cost-effective and easiest way to go, because you can just use whatever you can buy from the grocery store, right?
Nomad Cook in a couple of months will be launching our first product, and it is actual terpene blends that you can purchase and use for making ice creams or vinaigrettes, or using to infuse in. The nice thing with terpenes, even cannabis-derived terpenes, they're not regulated. Terpenes on their own will not do anything for you. So we, are, able to, offer these directly through our website and directly through, culinary locations.
Okay. And when's that happening? You said that's coming up?
Yes, you'll probably see that by the end of summer.
End of summer. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you did mention when you were talking about preserving the terpenes and how Chef Sedanio had his method of not decarbing. Now, I know like when you smoke cannabis, something might not be as high potency, but oftentimes it's the terpenes that really help dictate the effects. Would that apply to an extraction as well? Or is it more just because you're looking to create a flavor profile for when you're creating dishes?
Terpenes are responsible for the effects we feel. Like when you go into a store and you're told indica sativa, I hate to break it here, but that really doesn't mean anything. Indica sativa refer to the growth pattern of the plant. It's the actual terpene profile, right? Everyone's endocannabinoid system will react differently to different terpenes. So that's why we all have different favorite strains, because we're going to react differently to them. So, a lot of the edibles, when you buy it, it says sativa indica, you could buy either one. There's no difference between them, right? The terpenes have been lost through their process when making their edibles. So it depends. Are we re-adding back in those terpenes where no heat is going to be compromised in them?
So I guess that would only apply unless it says specifically it's a full spectrum terpene or full spectrum edible. But I do know people come in the dispensary all the time. They're like, I want those sativa ones. They really helped. But I wonder often if it's a placebo effect, because
100%.
they're usually these companies are using distillate or something like that. So
that's the thing. Most edibles, especially if you're buying them gray market, they're done with distillate. So all it is it's a pure form of THC that's either been sprayed or eye dropped onto the edible. And it is a placebo effect, right? So
yeah, that's what I try and tell people sometimes if they're willing to listen about how it doesn't really apply the same way. But people, a placebo effect is powerful. So there is that. Now, as far as creating edibles at home, usually most people are using trim or shake. Is the advantage of using like a nice quality bud just that you're going to get an improved...
It's your flavor.
Like it'll be more potent in the end?
Again, what do you... Like, if I have this beautiful strain, Simply Bare Organics has this beautiful sour cookies. And if, I'm going to spend the $55 on that egg, when I'm going to make sure the the oil or butter I'm going to be using is supporting that flavor profile. So, I'm going to be adding lemongrass into my oil with my cannabis flower to be enhancing that terpene profile, right? I wouldn't never use a low grade cannabis to make the Sedanio method. The Sedanio method is more desired for your premium cannabis flowers, right?
Okay.
I would never take a quad A flower and wash it, right? I would. That's designed more for my low grade cannabis.
Right. For your shake, your trim, the stuff that hasn't been properly flushed, all that kind of thing. Okay. That makes sense because I do know, like you said, I've tried Simply Bare, a couple of their strains. It's a beautiful bud, but it can be really hard to take that like gorgeous flower and then grind it up and use it in an infusion. Yeah. Yeah. So, you have also mentioned that you are writing a cookbook and a culinary cannabis cookbook. And I'm really excited about that because I love cookbooks. And I was just wondering if you could talk a bit about that.
Yeah. It's been something I've been working on now for all of COVID quarantine. And, it's put together and it's not your traditional cannabis cookbook where it's focusing on the edibles of brownies and gummies. It really is exploring it from the chef's point of view. So we're looking at, starting right from the beginning of the plant, understanding the different cannabinoids, the different types of cannabis you can be using, showing you the different methods. So Sedanio method, decarb, and then from there, introducing you to proper stock making. So, how to make your stocks proper ahead of time. And then all the different sort of sauces and vinaigrettes where cannabis can be applied into. So it's really giving you a page with direction and then allowing you to use the paintbrush to fill it in. You decide, am I using CBD? Am I using THC? Do I want to focus on a terpene profile? What applies best? Then I go through all my recipes and, those sauces, those vinaigrettes, those different sort of salts and stuff that all have the different ways of infusing them. You can then decide, which recipe applies best. You may just want to take the sauce out of that recipe and make your own dish. But we go through some snacks and some salads, soups, starters, entrees, appetizers, lots of delicious seafood recipes. Being from the West Coast, I'm very big on my seafood and, my style is a little bit of Asian flavor. Your soy sauce, mirin, sesame is wasabi. I think it's a nice representation of who I am and where I come from and the food that's inspired me over the last couple decades.
And when is that going to be available? I guess you're uncertain as of yet.
Well, yeah, I'm just in the process of moving to the U.S. here in 2 months. And I've just decided to hold off. You only get to launch your first cookbook once. So, I am optimistic the book will do well up in Canada. And I want to try and see if I can coincide a release into the American market at the same time. And, hopefully really use that as a vessel to get going down there.
Well, I'm pretty excited for that. You've got one buyer right here, that's for sure. And I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a manual for some of those advanced culinary cannabis techniques that we've just been talking about. So this is beyond just creating your regular coconut oil on the stove and way beyond that. And I'm sure the recipes are going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So
I think advanced, but it's definitely, for that average home cook as well, they really take it and, they're not going to be overwhelmed by reading it. I'm not a professionally trained chef. I've been doing culinary now professionally for 6 years, but, I used to be a business development manager in the oil and gas industry. I'm a home cook that has found my passion in life. So, I really, as much as I want to inspire the culinary world to take this on, I really want to encourage, people to be able to do this in their own homes. So.
Well, and that's amazing because I too am also a home cook. I'm definitely no professional. And I think a lot of people who are listening to this show would fall into that category as well. That's why they're listening because, they like spending time in the kitchen. And I mean, it's amazing to me that you wouldn't call yourself like a professional chef just because like I've seen the stuff you're doing on Instagram and it's incredible. And you're going on tour this summer.
Yes, I am. I mean, I guess I'm a professional chef. I when I first started, because I came off of Master Chef and that, I had a lot of respect for the industry. So there's a reason why it's the Nomad Cook and not the Nomad Chef.
Mm-hmm.
It was really designed for home cooks and that. But I had a dream and I chased it, and I'm proud of where I've got to right now. And it's what we're setting off to do this summer is really 6 years of blood, sweat, and tears kind of coming together. I've been touring the country nonstop for 5 years, but never how we're about to do it. We've had a sponsor step up and get us a 35-foot RV. We're starting in
Oh, wow.
Vancouver Island, and I've got 475 guests booked over a 9-week period. And we're going to be hosting dinners outdoors, COVID-safe environments. It's been a long 8.5 months of not working. I
Mm-hmm.
love my family, but I'm tired of cooking for them. I want to cook for some people I don't know, some strangers. I want to.
Yeah.
I hope I can get a hug in there and there with a stranger. I miss hugging people, and
Yeah.
so yeah. This we're 9 days away. This was a spontaneous idea I had in March. The last month has been extremely nerve wracking, wondering if lockdowns are going to lift and am I going to be able to do this? And every day a little bit more optimistic view of looks like it's happening. It's coming together. So
Oh, I think it is coming together. As lockdowns are starting to lift, people are getting vaccinated, the weather's getting better. I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to be epic, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure exactly when this episode is going to be coming out, but I'll definitely be putting in the show notes so that if there's any tickets left,
yeah,
there might be a few.
if you're looking to come, unfortunately, we've only got tickets left in Winnipeg, which is
Mm-hmm.
July 6th and 7th. We've got Toronto. I'm going to be teaming up with Top Chef Canada. Has a husband and wife duel out of Toronto this year, Josh and Erica. So we're going to be doing a little brunch pop up on the
Mm-hmm.
19th of July. So tickets will be available for that. And then Ottawa on the 24th of July. Tickets available for that. And Montreal on the 31st. But that's it. Everything else is sold out and filled up.
Wow.
Thankfully, I
Amazing.
wish we could be seating more at a time, but that's just going to have to wait until next year. So.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that's the nature of things as they are right now. But if there's a few tickets left and anybody in those areas wants some, perhaps they'll be able to nab
Yeah.
some. Now, you have mentioned that you're moving to the
Yes.
US. What takes you down south?
Well, I back in was it 2019 now? I did my first event in San Francisco. It sold
Mm-hmm.
out. I wanted to go out and celebrate, and I met this beautiful young lady. We went for one dinner, and fast forward 2 years later, we ended up getting married. So
Oh, that's so exciting.
yeah, so cannabis has really brought me everything in life. Such
Right,
happiness.
right.
It brought me my soulmate, and with Arizona just legalizing cannabis, and the I feel that there is a bit of a ceiling I've hit here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
There is a small window of opportunity right now to really keep this momentum going. So, I'm moving down to the States to continue to champion culinary cannabis as a Canadian cuisine, to really be pushing that we need the education coming out of the culinary institutions, and trying to push more people to come to Canada to see what we're doing up here. So
Amazing. So love brought you there, but there's going to be lots of opportunities once you're there, it sounds like. So, I mean, you have so much going on right now. You have your tour coming up very soon. You're about to move to the States. You've got a cookbook coming out and new products to your website in the fall. what else is coming? What are you excited about? Or is it just all these projects you're currently working on?
I'm just excited to cook for people, to hug a stranger, to see smiling faces at my table, to see strangers at my dinners become friends. And I have just missed cooking for people so much. This tour is going to be very special. You know, we're getting, I mean, if we took the cannabis part out of it, I don't even think a chef is toured in this manner. So if anything, I hope this inspires, people within the culinary world who have had a very, very tough year. You know, the landscape has changed. No longer does the diner have to come to you. You can go to them. People love these experiences, and, all you need is to set up a table and have somewhere to do some cooking, and you can do it.
Yeah, you know what? I think everyone else is waiting for the same things as you are, to be able to go out with friends and eat and be merry and hopefully enjoy some infused cuisine while they're at it. So unless there's anything else you want to add, Travis, I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you inviting me on. A big fan. And I hope to see some of your listeners at my dinner table this summer.
That would be amazing. Thank you. And as always, my friends, everything you might want to know is in the show notes. Now, Travis is pretty active on Instagram, and that's a great place to message him if you have information that you want to get about either of the tours that he's doing this summer. And it's also a good place to keep an eye open for some of the projects that he has coming up later this year. And everything else that we talked about is going to be in the show notes. But if you have any questions about anything that was covered today and you can't find it in the notes, or you just want to touch base and let me know what you think, by all means, shoot me an email at bitemepodcast@fastmail.com, or you can always send me a voice message as well. In the meanwhile, I hope that inspired you to get creative in the kitchen, to try some new things. I know I'm going to be trying out some new things after listening to this episode, and I'm really excited with what you all might come up with. As always, share it with me. I love to see it. So until next week, my friends, stay high.
Are you tired of trying edibles that are inconsistent in strength and flavor? Attempting to figure out your tolerance? Do you want to take control of your edibles experience and find the optimum combination of factors that results in the best outcome? If so, this edibles journal is perfect for you. The Bite Me Edibles Journal provides a convenient and organized way for you to track and record your edibles experience, whether it's homemade edibles or store-bought. It includes 48 fillable pages. It's sized 8.5 by 11 for plenty of writing space, includes information on calculating the potency of homemade edibles, and it was created by an edibles expert. Whether you're a seasoned edibles enthusiast or just starting out on your cannabis journey, the Bite Me Edibles Journal is an essential tool for anyone interested in enjoying their edibles to the fullest. Take control of your high life with this convenient and helpful resource. Add it to your Amazon cart today. Tap the link in the show notes.